Christmas is a time known for merriment and goodwill towards men. But, like anything beloved by people the world over, it does have a dark side. Hello, I'm Andrew Boyd, and though I've been spending my holiday season running away from the giant spiders that inhabit this dark dimension in which I am trapped, I thought I would take some time to tell you about the top 5 demons who only come out at Christmas. Number 5. Knecht ruprecht. Knecht ruprecht is a companion of Santa Claus, most commonly associated in German culture. While Santa Claus is depicted as a benevolent figure who brings gifts to the good children, Ruprecht is a little more complicated. He is described as wearing a dark robe with a pointed hood and walking with a limp and carrying a long staff and a bag of ashes. In some versions of the tale, he is a farmhand who works for old Saint Nick, and in others, he was a wild, feral child who Santa found and raised. Knecht Ruprecht is known for approaching children and asking them if they know how to pray, which is already pretty creepy. An old man approaching you with a bag of ashes and telling you to say your prayers? No thank you. If the children know their prayers, Ruprecht will give them apples, nuts, and gingerbread. What happens if the children don't know their prayers varies depending on the version. In some, he whacks them with his bag of ashes, and in others, he gives them sticks and rocks instead. In some, he gives them a switch for their parents to flog them with. While this may be odd, it doesn't sound especially demonic. But Ruprecht was a common name in Germany for the devil, and Jacob Grimm of the infamous Brothers Grimm wrote that Knecht Ruprecht was really Robin Goodfellow, a sprite or demon otherwise known as Puck or the Hobgoblin, known for committing mischievous pranks and practical jokes on the families whose homes he visits. Number 4. Marie Lwyd. The Marie Lwyd, otherwise known as the zombie horse or the grey mare, is a figure from Welsh mythology who goes door to door, singing, trying to convince people to let it into their homes. Rather than saying, "No, I don't want an undead horse in my living room," to get rid of the horse, the homeowner must come up with excuses as to why the horse cannot enter their home and sing them back to the horse. The horse and the homeowner go back and forth until one of them runs out of ideas, and the horse either leaves or is invited into the home. While this sounds disturbing, it is a mostly harmless game, where men decorate a horse skull with ribbons and use a sheet to conceal themselves to look like the zombie horse, while being accompanied by other merrymakers dressed as stock characters like Punch and Judy and the Merry Man. The act of trying to get into the person's home is not for any sinister goal, but in order to be allowed to share a drink or a meal with the homeowner. Less home invasion and more Yuletime trick-or-treat for adults. This custom has fallen out of favor as the Welsh language has become less used, but this somewhat morbid custom still raises a few questions. While characters like Santa Claus are inspired by tales of St. Nicholas, what inspired the stories of an undead horse wandering through the village and demanding entry to people's homes? And what happened to the original people who turned this literal nightmare away? It is hard to imagine that it would be anything good. Number 3. Pere Fouettard. Yet another of Saint Nick's companions is the horrible Pere Fouettard, which literally translates to Father Flog. He is most popular in France, Belgium, and parts of Switzerland. His origin is as gruesome as Santa's is wholesome. Legend says that in 1252 there was a butcher who had a habit of capturing children, robbing them, and then putting them into his stew. In other versions of the tale, he pickled them, intending to pass them off as meat and sell them. This scheme was uncovered by St. Nicholas, who was in the area providing famine relief. He confronted Fouettard and managed to resurrect the children, this being one of the miracles that apparently made him worthy of sainthood. With the children safe, Nicholas was left to deal with the butcher. In some versions of the tale, the butcher was so amazed with the miracle that he repented and offered his services, and in others, the saint forced him into indentured servitude as punishment for his crimes. Whatever the real story, St. Nicholas now had an assistant. Pere Fouettard is often depicted as being a sinister-looking man with wild, scraggly hair, dressed in dark robes. Depending on the version, he either carries a whip, a staff, or a bundle of sticks. While St. Nicholas will reward you if you have been good, he leaves the naughty children at the mercy of Pere Fouettard, who will flog them, or in more extreme cases, carry them off in the wicker basket on his back week so that he can have ingredients for his Christmas stew. Number 2. Krampus. What would a list of holiday demons be without Krampus? Perhaps the best known of the holiday hell fiends, Krampus is a figure of German mythology who is half goat and half demon, and carries around large chains that jingle and jangle as he stalks through your home. Less sleigh bells than sleigh bells, I suppose. He sports large horns, sharp teeth, and a long pointed tongue. In some tellings, he is the equivalent of Santa Claus, albeit a much more strict and brutal one. In some versions, he works with St. Nicholas, following him on his rounds, punishing the children who Santa has deemed to be naughty. In this version of the story, the lump of coal being left in your stocking is not the punishment, but a signal to Krampus that you are to be beaten with Krampus's bundle of birch sticks. If you were a particularly misbehaved child, you would be grabbed by Krampus and thrown into his sack and taken back to his lair in hell. The word Krampus comes from the German word Krampen, which means claw. In Nordic versions of the tale, Krampus is one of the children of the trickster god Loki. In Austria and the surrounding areas, there is a tradition known as the Krampus Run, where everyone dresses up as the Christmas demon and runs around town scaring children. Number 1. The Living Snowman. Our next tale comes from the town of Medford, Colorado, and involves a musician whose ambition proved to be his undoing, and a grieving family being visited by supernatural forces beyond the scope of human comprehension. In the late 90s, a musician named Jack seemed to be on top of the world. After years of struggling to make ends meet and seemingly endless touring, he had just recorded his first hit song, Don't Lose Your Faith. Unfortunately, to make this dream come true, he had been neglectful of his family, even missing his son Charlie's hockey game. In order to make up for this neglect, the family decided to spend the holidays at their cabin in the mountains, but they didn't know that the worst was yet to come. While on the way to the cabin, Jack received word that he had been booked for a gig that could make or break his career, and set off with his band to finally make it to the big time. At some point that night, Jack changed his mind and decided to spend the holiday with his family. He borrowed the car of one of his bandmates, but due to the vehicle having faulty windshield wipers and a horrible blizzard, Jack never made it back to his family. His son Charlie grieved for him and, according to rumor, used a cursed harmonica to try and summon his father's spirit. But without a body to inhabit, Jack's soul took control of a nearby snowman. Terrified by what had occurred, Charlie tried to escape, but according to eyewitnesses, the snowman followed the boy. The snowman proceeded to attack the local children who had been bullying his son with snowballs, before escaping with the terrified boy on a sled. As spring approached, Charlie's behavior began to become more and more unusual, as he took this snowman with him everywhere, even running away with it to the mountains in order to try and prevent its melting. His mother, Gabby, eventually found the boy, and they returned without the snowman. Life returned back to normal, but rumors of the living snowman continued to be whispered among the townsfolk, fearing that it would someday return and go after the children again. What happened to this living snowman? Is it melted, or is it still in the mountains, possessed by the spirit of the musician Jack Frost, waiting for revenge? With that, another list has come to an end. The dark forces that trapped me here have asked that I remind you to like this video and subscribe to our channel, lest they be forced to send Pere Fouettard after you. I shall remain here, chased by nightmares no human mind was meant to comprehend. But if I survive the holidays, I hope that I will see you again soon, so that I can regale you with more tales of the macabre and the disturbing here on Top 5 Scary Videos.